Yes,
Okay.
so it's
So,
live. Yeah.
yeah.
So before
So
we
should
go
I
ahead,
start or you will?
I wanted to
Yeah,
formally introduce you once to our audience.
sure.
So good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for joining in today on Sunday morning. And today we are really grateful to have Sir here talking about something very, very important because whenever we talk about success or growth, we all most of the time we think about IQ, skills, intelligence, but one thing which is like really and equally important is our emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is just not understanding others emotion, but at the same time understanding our own emotion. So to talk more about it, we have Dr. Sachitra Chakravorty today, and again we are really grateful to have you, sir, and I would love to introduce
Thank
him
you.
formally here. Yes. So uh, it is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker for today's session, Dr. Sachitra Chakravorty, who has MSc, MA, MPhil, and PhD degree. Dr. Chakraborty is highly experienced counseling psychologist, psychotherapist, CBT expert, hypnotherapist, author, and speaker with over 17 years of dedicated experience in field of mental health and professional development. So we are really grateful to have you here, and now I would request you to take over the session.
Thank you, Prajita. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. As Aparajita said very correctly, emotional intelligence, is so important in our life. By somewhere or other, we just forget the importance of it. But today, I just want to highlight why it is important. What actually is emotional intelligence is all about. There are certain hidden key for personal and professional success. That is why the topic is emotional intelligence, the hidden key to personal and professional success. So I just welcome you all for today's webinar. It's truly meaningful to see such a diverse audience. I also got to know there are some MHP, mental health professionals, emerging psychologists, and some individuals, they are interested in their personal growth. So today's topic is not just theoretical, it is deeply personal. So let me begin with few reflective question. I think that will give you an idea why what is EI and how it can support you. So my first question is, why do intelligent people sometimes struggle in relationship? And why do
And
some,
why do some,
even
you know,
therapists, yeah, why do some
why
therapists
do some therapists
experience burnout despite strong academic knowledge? And why do we repeat emotional
repeat emotion?
patterns even when we know better, right? Because the answer often lies in emotional intelligence. So today is not about learning something new. It is about understanding something already operating within us, within you and me. So that is our emotional system. So I know this webinar session will be quite reflective. It's not diagnostic. You are invited to observe your patterns with curiosity and not with judgment. Right? So, what is emotional intelligence? So, emotional intelligence actually is the ability to recognize emotions in oneself. Right? Identifying the emotion in yourself, understand emotional triggers, and regulate emotional responses. Recognize emotions in others, their perspectives, and then manage interpersonal relationship effectively. For the psychologist or the psychologist and students, this actually intersects with affect regulation, attachment theory, emotional processing, and interpersonal neurobiology. And for general participant, I feel that it is simply means understanding your emotions so they do not overpower you. I need to ask you a simple question. Think about it. Think of a recent emotional reaction you regret. Now the question is, what happened in that moment? Was it logic or emotions driving you? Just think about it. This is a very nice question. I think many of us do encounter this kind of challenges in our life, because I feel, as I am also into HR fraternity, so one of my senior HR senior leader once shared, I don't lose employees because of their packages. I lose them because of how they feel under certain managers. Right? Because emotions are something which silently drive our decisions. I just want you also to understand why this HR leader said like this. Right? Now, I think, Aparajita, are you getting any questions from viewers?
No, sir, not as
Yes.
of now.
Okay. So we'll understand now the neuroscience of emotional intelligence. To understand emotional intelligence, we must understand the brain. I think psychology students and psychologists may better connect, better understand, better resonate with my uh, language, because this is something new for the common people. When emotionally triggered, the amygdala activates rapidly, and the prefrontal cortex, which helps us in decision making, engages later. And then stress hormones reduces our cognitive clarity, and this is often referred to as amygdala hijack. For therapists, this explains dysregulated client responses, and for general participants, for the common people, this explains why I knew I should not have said that. So in emotionally emotionally intense moments, I just want to know from you, do you react immediately? Do you shut down, or do you over explain the things, or do you avoid confrontations? Because these are the patterns which indicates emotional conditioning. So now think about it, work on it. I think that will help you understand your own AI, emotional intelligence. Now coming to the next part, that is, the deep dive. I will be doing deep dive by understanding the five core components of emotional intelligence. Because that the number one is self awareness. Self awareness is emotional literacy. Like, many people identify only three emotions. They are happy, sad, or anger. They, happy, sad, and angry. But under the anger, there may be lot of other emotions like shame, fear, rejection, insecurity, and loss of control. If you go deep dive, you will find more such emotions. So I just want you all who has participated, write one recurring trigger. It's an exercise for you. Write one recurring trigger and then ask yourself what deeper need is attached. I'm giving you some example. I get angry when ignored. Yeah, and the deeper layer is I fear being insignificant. So for psychologists, this connects with schema activation and unmet attachment needs. And I just want to give you one example for this psychologist, because our therapist really an example. Our psychologist felt repeatedly irritated with a resistant client. A client was very much resistant. Later, she realized the client reminded her of her critical parent, right? So unrecognized countertransference reduces the emotional clarity, and therefore awareness restores therapeutic presence. That is first one. That is I told you about our self awareness, and the second core component is about self regulation. Yeah, regulation is not suppression, and suppression leads to somatic symptoms, symptoms, emotional numbness, and sudden outbursts. One sec. Now, pause. One sec. Let me check.
Till the time Sir joins back, everybody who has joined on our YouTube, if you have any question or have any suggestion or want to share anything, you may use our YouTube comment section. I am monitoring that, and if you have any question, please put it out there, and I will be reading that to Sir by the end of the session. So please feel free to ask any question or share any suggestion or opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Aparajita. Actually, there was someone at the door, nobody at work. Anyway, I was talking
Sorry.
about the second. I was talking about second component of emotional intelligence, that is self-regulation. So, self-regulation is, as I said, regulation is not suppression, because suppression leads to somatic symptom, bodily issues and emotional numbness, sometimes sudden outbursts. So, regulation means feeling fully and responding consciously. Uh, we usually, recommend everyone to do 6-second pause. That is the practical technique. Before responding, anger or whatever, just pause, breathe, and name the emotion and choose your responses. And say, I'm just giving you a real life scenario. In real life scenario, one partner says, "You don't care about me. You don't care about me." So, from the, if it is low EI, it will be like, the other person will say, "Oh, that is ridiculous. I can't believe it." But a person who is having high EI, he will, speak it differently. He will say, "It sounds like, you are feeling disconnected. Let us talk." Right. So this is the second component, which is very important to understand. And third component is motivation, where, what happens, emotional intelligent people sustain efforts despite discomfort and reframe the failure and maintain intrinsic purpose. So I just want you, I just want you to answer, after failure, what is your self-talk? Sometimes, people will say that I'm useless, or this is feedback, right? So emotional meaning shapes our perseverance. That is one thing. And the fourth component is empathy, because it is uh, emotional attunement. For, people who are practicing or who are learning psychology, this is the foundation of therapeutic alliance. And for general participant, it is listening without fixing. It is listening. You're not reacting, rather you are listening what actually is happening. I just want to give you a wonderful example. A father, scolded his teenage son for poor grades, and later he discovered the child was being bullied in school. So same behavior but different interpretation. It is the same behavior but different interpretation. So empathy would have changed the response. So most of the time in therapy also, we need to understand the other person's perspective. I can give you one example. Yesterday I had a client who was just talking against his wife. But after listening, after a few minutes, I said, "Have you ever tried to understand what she has gone through in her childhood?" He said, "Yeah, there are certain childhood traumas." So, anyway, this kind of empathy definitely helps, and finally, he realized that he is not doing good. And the final component, that is the social skill. And this includes assertive communication, yes for yes and no for no, and conflict repair. You need to repair the conflicts, boundary setting, emotional influence, because success is relational. It's relational. IQ can help you to get hired. Emotional intelligence keeps you relevant, right? So I just want you all to introspect or reflect something about this, and the questions that I asked. If you have Any questions in your mind, please send in the YouTube comment box, which is being monitored by Aparajita. So, you know, emotional intelligence play a very big role in relationship, and there are a lot of attachment patterns in conflict because some people, it's a cycle, pursue withdraw cycle, where partner A will say, he partner A will seek closeness, partner B will withdraw under stress. And here, you know if you see it is being escalated, it shows that it is low EI stands for emotional intelligence, and recognition of emotional fear patterns is a high intelligence quotient. So now, in conflict, I just would like to know from you guys, do you attack? Yeah, yeah. So because sometimes it happens that we can't, can't realize the situation because of all these attachment issues. We can do anything, we may attack someone, we may withdraw, we may over explain, or we may uh, share excessively, which is not required. So want to know from you guys, do you attack or withdraw or over explain or do excessively? I just want to know during your conflicts, because your style reflects emotional history. I'm just giving you one case study. A couple married for 10 years and reported constant arguments, non-stop arguments, and assessment revealed both fear, abandonment, both reacted defensively. So when fear was acknowledged, they found that the conflict got reduced. So emotional understanding replaced the blame. So I have talked about five components, and then I'm just trying to tell you something very important in the relationship, that is EI. Yeah. And in case of professional growth, right? So it's only for the psychologists and the students. High EI, that is emotional intelligence in therapy, that requires emotional containment, self reflection, counter transference awareness, and burnout management. I'm just giving one example of burnout. A young therapist began feeling emotionally exhausted. She realized she absorbed client distress without regulation. So, what EI skills she need to do? She, that is emotional boundaries plus reflective supervision. These two things are important to make to make herself uh, controlled. So these two important EI skills are important. That is emotional boundaries and reflective supervision. But in the corporate and general part, for the corporate and the general participant, I just want to give you another example where two managers, manager A focuses on only results. Manager B, he balances results with the emotional climate. After 12 months, Manager B's team outperformed due to psychological safety. Right. So I just, if any one of you have been into job, So, have you ever left a job because of how someone made you feel? This is a very right question. I need answers if you are trying to understand. I know most people will just nod because emotions drive retention, right? So, these are very important things. And there are certain, barriers to emotional intelligence. There are certain barriers, like, common barriers are ego defensiveness. Second is trauma history. Third is emotional invalidation in childhood. And fourth is chronic stress. And last one is fear of vulnerability. So I just want to explain you what actually it is all about because it's very important how how can we understand a person's perspective or maybe the AI, because emotional intelligence is not simply about learning techniques. It requires psychological safety, self awareness, and emotional maturity. But certain internal barriers, make emotional awareness and regulation very difficult. Let us let us explore in depth. As I said, the ego defensiveness. Ego defensive, this is just the tendency to protect one's self image at all cost. When feedback, disagreement, or criticism is perceived as a threat, the person reacts by, denying responsibility, blaming others, justifying behavior, becoming argumentative. And psychological mechanism is, the ego equates mistake with I am inadequate. Instead of processing feedback objectively, the mind activates self protection. For example, a colleague can say, I think this report needs revision, right? Here, the low AI response is, so you think I don't know my job, right? And high AI is, could you help? Could you help me understand which part needs improvement? So, see, AI is playing a big role in all these things. What will be the impact? Defensiveness blocks the growth and it prevents reflection and damages relationship. And true emotional intelligence requires separating I made a mistake from I'm a mistake. Okay, that is the first one. That is, ego defensiveness, and second is trauma history. What it is? See, past emotional, relational, or even developmental trauma sensitizes the nervous system. The brain becomes hyper alert to perceived threat, and psychological mechanism is, the amygdala becomes over responsive, and neutral cues may feel dangerous. I'm just explaining you by an anecdote. A partner forgets to call to someone with abandonment trauma. This may feel like I'm being left again. These reactions become intense, not because of the present event, but because of the past emotional memory. What is the impact? Trauma reduces emotional regulation capacity, and reactions may appear disproportionate. And healing increases emotional flexibility and resilience. So, the next one is about emotional invalidation in childhood. What is this emotional invalidation in childhood? So growing up in environments where emotions were dismissed, criticized, or ignored. You know, there you may notice some of the statements like "Stop crying," "You are overreacting during childhood," "Be strong," "Don't be dramatic." Right. So psychological consequences will be, children will learn, they will know that emotions are unsafe, vulnerability is weakness, and emotional expression leads to rejection. I have many such cases. An adult impact will be, as adult, they may suppress feelings, they may struggle to identify emotions, avoid emotional conversation, and become emotionally detached. Or the opposite, they may become highly reactive because they never learned regulation skills. Emotional intelligence requires emotional permission, something many were never given. And the next one is chronic stress. So chronic stress is prolonged exposure to work pressure, financial strain, caregiving burden, or health issues. The neurological impact is, chronic stress keeps the nervous system in survival mode, and in survival mode, patience gradually decreases and irritability increases, and cognitive flexibility, that is activities, the flexibility in the thought process gets reduced, and empathy also declines. An example, I'm giving you an example. A person with a calm individual become short tempered during prolonged workload pressure. It is not personality change, it is nervous system overload. And emotional intelligence decline when stress management is neglected. And final is the fear of vulnerability. It is the reluctance to express emotional truth due to fear of rejection, judgment, or appearing weak. And the psychological roots are often linked to, past betrayal, shame experiences, cultural conditioning, gender norms. I just can give you an example. Is they usually say, instead of saying I felt hurt when that happened. Yeah. The person says, forget it, it doesn't matter. An unexpressed vulnerability often transforms into anger or withdrawal. So the impact is relationship remains superficial on surface level, conflicts repeat, emotional intimacy that gets weakened, and high emotional intelligence requires courage, the courage to be emotionally honest. So these barriers are not flaws, they are adaptive responses developed for protection. So, ego protects self worth, trauma protects survival, in invalidation teaches suppression, and stress prioritizes survival over reflection, and fear of vulnerability prevents rejection. So, what once protected us may now limit us. So, emotional intelligence, grows when we shift from automatic protection to conscious reflection. I just want you to ask yourself this question: when I become defensive, what am I protecting? And when I withdraw, what actually I'm afraid of? And when I suppress emotion, who taught me to do so? Because awareness is the first step towards emotional freedom. So, this is about the barriers that I have talked about. So next, I just would like to let you know about your reaction. If you have any question, you can ask in the comment box. I will try to. But before that, I feel that I need to give you something that is about, yeah. So I feel that these are some of the very important issues that we always encounter on a daily life, day to day basis. If you feel that you are going through those kind of situation, you can always reach out to AHA therapy. I think that there will get a lot of therapists, and that is what I feel that, because this generation, I tell you, I have noticed that this generation have realized the value of therapy. Even for the small things, they also reach out. They tried because they need to understand what is wrong with them, how this can be sorted out. So apart from emotional intelligence, there are a lot of support system that is available with the AHA therapy. You can reach out whenever you feel that you need to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful session. Like, the calmness in your voice and the examples and the questions. I know, like, these are very important questions, but instead of attack, it felt like, okay, it is important for me to think about it. And I'm so happy that everybody who have joined in. And like sir said, you can, yes, reach out to AHA therapy, but at the same time we will also be putting sir contact details, his Instagram and LinkedIn in the description. So if you're looking for some kind of professional help, or if you just want to have a conversation with him, you can always reach out to him. We'll putting his contact. And before we wind up, sir, I wanted to ask one question. Like, very often I hear from people, like, I'm very sensitive. I feel lot of emotion. I wish I could not feel this much. I wish कि मुझे इतना नहीं समझ आता या मुझे इतना नहीं पता होता. What would you tell to those people who think that they feel a lot?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when a person says that I'm emotional, it can mean many different things. Let us gently unpack that. Being emotional is not a weakness, you know, and it simply means you feel deeply, right? The important question is, do your emotions guide you, or do they control you? There's a difference. Both are different. So being emotional versus being emotionally intelligent, right? So being emotional means you experience feeling intensely. You react quickly. Situations affect you deeply. But when I tell that you being emotionally intelligent, that there you recognize what you are feeling. You understand why you are feeling it, and why you choose how to respond. So depth of the emotion is not the problem. Lack of regulation is. So again, to continue your question, what you feel emotion when you feel emotional, what usually triggers you? We need to ask ourselves. Yeah. And do you feel overwhelmed, hurt, angry, or anxious? Or after reacting, do you feel regret? Sometimes, saying I'm emotional actually means I get hurt easily. I overthink. I react strongly. I felt or I feel misunderstood. So, understanding the specific pattern definitely helps. And emotional sensitive people can often show strong empathy, build meaningful connections, notice subtle relational shifts. even care deeply about others. But without boundaries and regulation, they may feel drained, they take things personally, and they may experience mood fluctuations. So instead of saying I'm emotional, you may say, I feel deeply and I'm learning to manage my emotions wisely. That shift is really powerful, right? Thank you so much for asking
Yes,
this
it,
question. Yeah, yeah.
thank you for your answer. It's such a wonderful answer that I think deeply, I feel deeply. That thank you so much, sir, for this webinar. And I'm so grateful for all the people who have joined in together. And on Sunday morning, it's lovely to see everybody here. It really motivate us to keep going. So yeah, thank you for today, and we will be back by next Sunday with another webinar, and we would love to have you there again. And again, thank you, sir, for being here, and we are
Thank you
always
so much.
grateful. And thank you for being part of AHA community. So
Thank
okay,
you
sir,
so
then
much.
thank you.
Yeah,
Bye bye.
yeah,
Take
yeah.
care.
Thank you. Bye. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
कैसे डिस्कनेक्ट करूं